Sometimes one person's freedom can be another person's prison. For instance, when it comes to freedom of speech or speaking one's truth. And some might imagine that freedom of speech means the right to say anything you like to another person, even though this truth might potentially emotionally in some way upset or even damage the other person. How can all human beings experience freedom without causing harm or upset to another and still speak their truth?
So what is important is that you understand you are not responsible for another person's emotional state. However, within the nature of what you sign up to as a human being or as a person within a society that you participate in, you need to come to some acknowledgement or some understanding of how much you are in and how much you are out. It is like having 1 foot in the doorway and 1 foot out of the doorway. In terms of that which you describe, freedom of speech is that which arises through you naturally. And if it is from what we would say, anything that arises that has the potential to impact somebody else in their emotional perspective, what you need to do is say what it is that you want to say, but with compassion, but with conscious awareness of the nature of the potential. Of course, it's important because if you hold or withhold that which you naturally desire and want to say, then you maintain that as an energy within you and it becomes caught up. But what is important is that you are free-flowing with your energy, with compassion and kindness. Of course, these are human qualities that there is not enough display of within the world at this particular moment in time, at that vibrational frequency. And you come from that position, the position of the heart. The position of the heart is through compassion and kindness. It is only through the position of the head, or that which is ego when you are struggling or in fear, that what occurs is speech or language that is not conducive to the nature of relationships. So what you need to understand is what position you are coming from. Are you coming from love? If you are coming from love, then you are coming with compassion and kindness. Or are you coming from fear? Then you are coming from a different energy that is from within, that is threatening the nature of that which is your ego, and so you are in fear. Once you understand which position you are coming from, then in terms of freedom of speech, always come from that which is the nature of love.
Yes, because when you come from that place, from your heart with compassion, even if you trigger someone else's, perhaps their own wounds from within, their own internal unfinished business, then you have at least done it with total responsibility.
It is a matter of the desire and intention that is behind what it is that you wish to say. What is important, of course, on the other side of the coin, to use that phrase, is that you are not aware of the nature of the conscious awareness of the person that you are speaking to. And it may be that even though you speak to them from the fear perspective, they receive it from the heart perspective and have an understanding of the nature that you are coming from fear. It is only when fear meets fear that is when you have difficulty in terms of the nature of relationships.
I think also if you speak with love and compassion, but you trigger someone's fear, you can witness something that isn't entirely what you might have intended or expected or hoped for. And yet, from what you've said before, it's not for us to take responsibility. If we've come from our heart and we've spoken with compassion, we've honoured ourselves and spoken our truth, and yet we've triggered someone else's fear, we can step in and support in whatever way we can, but ultimately we have not got responsibility. We don't have to take responsibility for their fear.
You do not have to take responsibility for their fear, but you can take responsibility for their fear if you do so consciously, knowing that what has arisen as a result of something that you have said is a fear-based approach to the reaction of what you have said. And if you are coming from the heart, then within the nature of that energy is compassion, is kindness, such that you can see they are coming from fear, that you have created and generated fear within them. And then there is the decision for you in that present moment to assist them through that process. That would be part of the compassionate and kind way.
Absolutely.
of exchanging speech and information.
And what if they're not willing to accept that?
Well, again, it is important for you to acknowledge that that is the situation that has occurred as a result of you putting out there from a heart-based perspective their reaction. They are not duty-bound, of course, to accept anything that you say, and they will react in terms of only the way that they can react because of perhaps their history or because of perhaps something that has happened an hour before. What is important is that you can move away from that situation with integrity, with understanding, with consciousness that you have, from a heart-based perspective, given that which is love in the way, in terms of how the words are said, what you are trying to intend, but it is with love, not through fear.
And ultimately, the other person has suddenly become aware of some unfinished business, and that could be viewed as a gift. That if it's a bit like stepping on a mine that goes off, and yet at least then we have an awareness of the fact that there is a mine there, and that person can then consciously work on that issue. So it's a gift that it's been uncovered in a way.
Well, it is a gift that it has been uncovered because it will uncover itself. But the question is, in terms of conscious awareness of the other person that has received whatever it is from you, are they of a high enough conscious awareness to see the gift that is being given to them? It is not necessarily always the case.
Often not, in fact.
Often not.
You've spoken before about mirrors. Can you explain the relevance of the mirror in this situation?
Well, the mirror itself is the reflection of what is occurring in that present moment, that you are there in that present moment. Whoever else is there in that present moment, and the energies of the two of you will blend. It cannot be any other way. You cannot stop the blending of your energy with another person that you are in conversation with. And in terms of that which is reaction and action, the mirror is that if you are coming from an angry place, the reflection will be back to you that you are coming from an angry place. Either it will be told to you directly through compassion or through fear, and you will see that. But what is important is whether you see the reflection as a reflection of you, not as something that the other person has found themselves in and you say, well, that is you. In fact, what is important to understand is that the person that is standing in front of you from one consciousness or oneness, that person is you and is the reflection of what is occurring internally within you.
So would your advice be to people to constantly see these reactions as an ability to respond differently, as an ability to learn more about ourselves?
Well, if that is the nature of the person, then that is what you can utilize it for. It is not always the case that people are at that place, that they are desiring to develop themselves and to raise the nature of their conscious awareness through the vibrational frequency range. It is not always there at the forefront in terms of how they wish to live their lives. Sometimes you can go through a whole day or go through a whole week totally what is an unconnected way in terms of what you are seeing. But if in a quiet moment, if in a moment of stillness where there is nothing to distract you, that is rare for a human being, but when you find that place, what occurs is, if you let it, is a rerunning, because that is what human beings do, is they rerun the past.
Yes.
Whether it is the last hour, the last week, or the last month. And at that moment, that is when conscious awareness can be brought to what were the situations, can be brought to the reactions, and if there is an energy to accept what is, then it will be seen as a reflection of what is on the inside, not necessarily what was going on for the other person.
So it seems as though there's a direct correlation between the ability to respond, to have conscious awareness, and to be in a state of freedom.
They are connected. It is not possible because, in terms of the nature of how they move on from one another, they are part of the energy mix that creates that which is freedom.
So it sounds as though your advice would be to be as consciously aware as you can and constantly take responsibility for your own state, your own way of being.
Well, that is ideal, of course. If a person can be in that place permanently, as you might say, then that is the place to be. What is important to understand is being in that place is a practice. It is not something that can happen overnight. It is not something that can happen because of all the distractions of the society that you participate in, that you have one foot in, you have one foot out. But you can, in terms of making choices, move in and out of what it is that you desire your life to be. But if you can, from a practice position, observe what is happening more and more and more, that you become consciously aware of that is your way of being in the world, then your vibration, your way of being, your clarity of what life is about will begin to emerge, such that you will get to a point when it becomes your way of being.
And that can only be good for humanity as well in totality.
Of course.
Fantastic. Thank you.
You're welcome.